From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
How the Inflation Reduction Act could save you money while keeping the environment in mind. We'll have that story coming up.
I'm Joe St. George at the White House. President Biden's State of the Union address is Tuesday night. But are these speeches as influential as they used to be? We break down why or why not you should watch next.
All right, 6:32 in Southwest Montana. Happy Monday, everyone. Beautiful look over the area. Yeah. Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell, Jane McDonald.
Yeah,
on the desk.
We got to get used to that.
Yeah.
Chet,
it's been too long since we've had a three-person team.
It's great. I'm glad you're here.
We're here.
Back to that, you got to rein us in.
Absolutely. I'll try. There's no promises on that.
It's probably a smart move. Temperatures into the mid-30s. There are some snow showers out there. I don't think that we're looking at anything real heavy, but enough it is influencing our drive in the mining city this morning. As a look into the Bozeman area, our temperature should be into the mid-30s. Again, a couple of isolated snowflakes. You can see wet roadways, maybe some ice on some of those roadways in the mining city. Looks like these daytime highs should be into the mid-30s. We've got another dash of snow heading our direction. We'll talk about the timing on that in just a bit.
Thank you, Matt. 6:33, our top story this morning. Rescue workers saved a child from the rubble of a collapsed building northwest Syrian city of Azaz after a powerful earthquake killed dozens, injured hundreds early this morning. The deadly 7.9 magnitude quake killed more than 1,300 people, injured thousands as the numbers coming in, and those numbers are still growing. Footage captured by Reuters showed the dramatic moment when a group of rescuers pulled that toddler from the rubble before hurriedly carrying her away from that scene. Unbelievable footage there. More coming up on CBS Mornings at 7 o'clock.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, President Biden is set to deliver his annual State of the Union address on Tuesday, tomorrow. The speech will be broadcasted like usual at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by the Republican response.
But does this annual tradition of addressing Congress still have the same impact that it used to? Our Joe St. George takes a unique and animated look at the history and the speech's relevance here in 2023.
It's time for another State of the Union.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
The annual primetime speech the president makes before Congress. But in this day and age, do State of the Union addresses still matter? Experts say yes and no. First, you should know that Tuesday's speech doesn't actually have to happen. Yes, President George Washington delivered one in person, and so did President John Adams. But President Thomas Jefferson stopped it, believing it felt too much like the King of England speaking to Parliament. From 1801 until 1913, reports to Congress instead to fulfill their constitutional obligations. President Woodrow Wilson brought back the practice in 1913, and with the invention of radio and television, the in-person tradition has happened in most years since then. When President Biden speaks Tuesday, it will likely be his most watched speech of the year. 38 million watched last year's address, which is a chance for him to highlight past accomplishments like legislation to boost computer chips, express optimism on issues like Ukraine's war with Russia, and preview policy goals like raising the debt ceiling this year and avoiding a default. The State of the Union is typically the only time each year that every Republican member of Congress and every Democratic member of Congress is in the same room listening to a presidential speech, which, yes, at times can feel long. The longest ever, President Bill Clinton's in 2000, was 1 hour and 28 minutes. The shortest, Richard Nixon's in 1972, was just 28 minutes. President Biden's speech last year was 1 hour and 1 minute. There are critics, though, who say the State of the Union isn't as influential as it used to be. Viewership has declined in recent years compared to the 1990s, and policy proposals have too. According to data compiled by the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service from 1965 to 2015, on average, only 39.4% of all policy proposals contained in the State of the Union address were approved by Congress that same year. That means statistically, most things President Biden mentions and wants Congress to accomplish won't actually happen this year. Scripps News, Washington.
I do get a kick out of the graphics.
That's fun.
Very good. 6:36, back here at home now. The Inflation Reduction Act making climate-friendly technologies.
MTN's Jolie Solis spoke with a heating and cooling company to find out how the bill could save you money.
I'm here at Hometown Heating and Cooling in Belgrade, where a climate bill is making it more affordable for everyday Americans to afford clean technology, like this heat pump.
It could be as much as $14,000 available in rebates. And what's unique about this is it resets every year.
The Inflation Reduction Act is a deal including a slew of incentives like home improvements that would increase energy efficiency and clean energy technology, something that the owner of Hometown Heating and Cooling, Tim Delph, says will be a game changer for homeowners.
And we're expecting that top tier equipment to qualify for it. So what they want to see is the most efficient equipment being installed with these rebates.
The rebate program would reward eligible households for energy savings. Those amounts could increase for low or moderate income households.
Depending on if you qualify for it, could be up to $8,000 rebate. And then there's other additional rebates too for updating your electrical panels and other components in your home.
The only problem is figuring out what those qualifications are.
And none of those details are ironed out yet.
Delph says right now they don't know what the efficiency requirements are for people to meet the qualifications, and there's no way for people to find out that information either.
We are supposedly supposed to provide the rebates to the customer and then get reimbursed by the government. And since there's no actual portal or active way to streamline that process, everybody's kind of going around going like, well, let us know when you can get it figured out.
So when will everything be figured out?
They're saying that this program won't even be ready to actually roll out for what we do until probably mid-year, possibly in third quarter.
But in the meantime, there are other ways people can take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act. Other elements of the bill would make it easier for folks to invest in solar technology.
Now solar is affordable.
Jackson Rogers, the area manager for Pure Light Power, says in the past this wasn't the case, but now
Federal government will take care of 30% of the cost of that through tax credits.
Rogers predicts about $650 to $700 million staying in the local economy if they install the amount of solar he anticipates.
Never before have we seen a better time to convert to solar energy. Never, never, never. And with the new incentives offered by the federal government, never, I mean, heck, will there be a better time? I don't know.
In Bozeman, Jolisa Lee, MTN News.
Worth a second look for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jolie. Something we'll be following. Well, a homeless woman that was once homeless herself, moved to Billings recently, and she noticed a large homeless population in the state's largest city.
So instead of standing around, she decided to do something to help. MTN's Diane Parker has her story.
She's not a superhero or even a nonprofit, but on many Sundays you'll find Billings' Wander Woman wandering around downtown handing out much needed food and supplies.
I have a whole stash of clothes ready for spring when we get there.
But right now, in the dead of Montana winter, Shay Reiser is setting aside her personal budget, making sure people on the streets stay alive and well fed.
Cooking for people brings me a lot of joy.
Wander Woman is resourceful, cooking 50 to 70 meals every other Sunday on a budget of $150 per month, with a no-waste local catering company chipping in leftover food before it expires.
People are always bringing me things and I turn it into a meal. I'm really, really great at cooking on a budget. I raised 3 teenage boys who ate a lot. The first meal is in my budget and the second meal is typically sponsored by someone in the community, says like, hey, I want to help out, and kicks in $50 or $100.
Donations offset costs as she buys food containers and upgrades the kitchen.
Now I have a bigger pot and a bigger ladle and a bigger cooler. Those things add up.
Every other week she hauls this trailer with her. It now has a much bigger purpose than moving her to Montana from Nebraska a year and a half ago.
It was just sitting empty in my driveway, so we filled it with totes and we built a coat rack. And I have coats and blankets and men's and women's clothing and shoes, socks, hats, gloves, things like that.
Delivery time is always at 11 o'clock on the north side of the tracks.
Biggest message is just to be kind to people because you don't know what they're going through.
Easy to say for Billings' Wander Woman as she serves up home-cooked meals with endless compassion.
Everyone deserves to eat, always.
In Billings, Diane Parker, MTN News.
Best line of the week so far. Everyone deserves to eat.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
No, absolutely not. Well, 6:42, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have more of your headlines. Matt will be back with your weather.
And then later, we're going to give you